Have you ever found yourself in a situation where you can't help but doubt the person closest to you? And this doubt just puts you in a rock-hard place and you don't exactly know what to do in that case? If yes, then you can definitely help me out, because I could honestly use some advice right now. I'm B, and the situation I'm in is all because of my darling mother, Linda. So before I get into what the actual problem is, let me tell you a bit about my mom and the relationship we share. So, my mother's been the only family I've known since I was 14, because my dad left us at the time and got married to some other woman he found at his workplace. Mom was devastated at the time, but she was also grateful that father decided to leave her altogether instead of cheating on her. But it became very hard for my mom to handle all the expenses. I was just an additional burden. So, my mom, who had never worked until this point, worked as a nanny for some kids to keep a roof over our head. It wasn't much, just a dingy one-room apartment. Also, the child support coming from Dad helped as well, but it was never enough. Those were pretty tough times for us, which is why, as soon as I was 16, I started working 2 part-time jobs to bear my own expenses. It worked out for us, and we were able to get by until the time I turned 23. See, I had to take a few student loans to pay for my education, but it all paid off because soon after I completed college, I landed a very well-paying job in a bank. This job was a game changer for us because slowly after I landed the job, things started to look up for us financially. A year or so into it, after I was able to pay off the student loan, I even bought a house for us. I mean, it wasn't a huge house, of course, but it was more than enough for 2 people. My mother was happy and even proud of my achievements. But as much as this was a good turning point in my life, it was also bad. Why? Because this was when my problems with my mom started. Just 2 months after I started my job at the bank, my mom stopped trying to earn herself. She stopped her babysitting gigs like she had a certain fixed customer who would pay her well, but she quit all of it. I could not understand any of it, and when I asked her about it, she just told me that she wanted to rest for some time, since she has been working really hard for the past few years. Well, I agreed with her, and I was even pleased to provide my mother with some sense of relief. I was earning well enough for the both of us anywho. But as the moments turned and my mother still refused to try and earn and became more dependent on me, it started to bother me. It wasn't that I could not bear my mother's expenses. That is what I've been doing for the last 3 years since I got the job. That's not a problem for me. But the problem comes when my mother's spending habits. You see, once she settled into the whole financial dependency on me situation, she started to splurge my hard-earned money, which honestly bothered me. Like, I'm working to my bones here and you're spending thousands of dollars on a shopping spree, getting gifts for your friends? How in the hell is that justified? Well, this was the point where tension escalated between us. We started having frequent arguments and I would complain about my mom's lavish expenses, while my mother would just emotionally manipulate me, talking about how hard she worked to get me there and that I owed it all to her. Well, I never really disagreed. I know that she had a tough time raising me, but that did not mean that she would sprinkle my money around like confetti while I was busting myself trying to save each penny. So obviously I was frustrated with my mother. But things got even worse and our arguments even more heated when my mother introduced me to her boyfriend Jack 6 months back. Now, you must be thinking that I'm the type of daughter who cannot see my mother dating someone else. That's not the case, and neither is the problem here. The problem is Jack. So, you see, this guy Jack that my mother chose for herself is just like her in many aspects. Firstly, he doesn't have a stable income. He just keeps hopping from one car repair shop to the other, getting bored and quitting to find another one. Stupid, right? Now, secondly, Jack, like my mom, loves to splurge around the money that isn't his. And by that, I mean my money. Yeah, since the day my mother started dating Jack, she's found a new hobby and a new way to waste my money, and that's to spend it all on her stupid boyfriend. You can imagine how this has led to an increased argument and this constant tension between us. But that did not stop my mom. She even wanted Jack to move into my house, but I was the one who stopped the idea before it even started. Because this is my house, and I was not allowing some stupid freeloader to live in my home. And this is what led to the biggest argument me and my mom ever had a month back. So I just asked my mom to get herself a job if she wanted to spend so lavishly on her boyfriend. I mean, she's not even that old, and she's capable enough to get a job. Well, she freaked out, like I had asked her to pay me with her body parts. She went all crazy on me, calling me an ingrate and whatnot. So naturally, I reached a conclusion to teach my mother a lesson. I couldn't obviously cut her off, since she's my mom, but I put a limit on the money I gave her for her expenses. I would just straight up stop giving her money according to her own demands. Yeah, that's right. And only gave the sum that was needed for the necessities. And this obviously drove a big wedge between me and my mother because she was so mad at me beyond measure, but I couldn't care less. I've had enough of her and I was not stupid enough to allow more of this craziness. This argument resulted in me and my mom barely talking to each other, despite living in the same household, Well, now skip to last night. So me and my mom had not been talking much until last night when she asked me for a huge sum of money. Before I could even refuse, she just straight away told me that she knows that I did not like spending her money on Jack or unnecessary expenses, but this time she wanted the money to travel, a week-long church retreat that was being organized at some campsite in another town. See, she also said that she was planning to donate some of the money to the fundraising event that would be held there. And here comes the real problem and the reason why I'm even here right now asking for advice. So, considering my history with my mom, you can guess why I must be skeptical about this whole thing. I seriously can't believe that my mother, who loves shopping and all these materialistic things so much, would seriously be interested in something as religious as a church retreat. But then there's a clash in my mind thinking that she might be genuine with her request this time. 'Cause she seemed genuine when she asked. My mother had never accepted her mistakes or the fact that she did spend a lot of my money unnecessarily until now. So I honestly feel that not giving her the money might mean that I'm stealing the chance for her to change her ways and be a better person. I don't have any problems giving the money to my mom if she makes good use of it instead of wasting it. And now it seems like that she actually wants to put it to good use for the first time, but still I find myself doubting her. And that's the problem that's honestly eating me alive. I really want to help my mother, but I don't want this to be yet another attempt of her wasting my money. I really believe she's being genuine this time, but then another ray of doubt enters my mind. I know she's my mom, and I should not be doubting her, but I honestly can't help, and this is the reason why I've turned to a bunch of strangers. So guys, tell me, what do you think I should do? Should I give the money to my mother, or should I stick to my doubts and tell her no? I could really use some advice here, guys. Update number 1. Hey, it's B again. I know it's been just 2 days since my last update, but I've come here to update y'all about it because I'm honestly furious. I don't know how else to vent, who to give my feelings to. So before I just start talking about what got me here, let me address the elephant in the room. A lot of you guys were curious to know whether I gave the money to my mother or not. Well, the answer is yes, I did. Not just the money, I also lent her my credit card to book the tickets for herself, since I was pretty busy and she was in a hurry to book it, or else she would have lost the seat. And I honestly feel like the biggest fool here and regret ever doing that because guess what? The church retreat my mother was going to, it was a lie. But before I get into the details, of how my mom tricked me, I just want to thank everybody for the support. Also, to the people calling me an ingrate and selfish and an idiot for not trusting my mother enough, you'd just seen enough reason of why I was skeptical, right? So now coming to the crazy truth here. My mother never went to a church retreat. And can you guess where she went instead? On a vacation to some island with her idiot boyfriend Jack. Can you believe it? Because I honestly can't wrap my head around the whole thing. I just know that my head just feels like it might explode anytime because of all the anger I have pented up. Come on, I gave that woman a chance to show me that she has changed. I trusted her, for God's sake. All for her to betray me. Well, you must be wondering how I actually got to know about her vacation with Jack. So this morning, I did receive a text from one of my closest friends asking if I was also planning to take a vacation soon. I was as confused as you guys are right now, and when I asked her what she's talking about, she just went on to say that I should also keep my needs first, for once as I do with my family. That still struck no chord with me, and when I got more confused, she just told me that she just saw my mother out on a vacation, and she thought that I ought to take one too considering how hard I work. It finally made sense to me, and I was still calm, thinking that my friend must have seen my mother at the campsite for her retreat. So, I told her the same thing, and that's when I got the shock of my life. She just told me that I must be mistaken because she was in a luxury hotel on an island, and there's where she had seen my mother with her boyfriend. I was confused, and my friend further clarified to me that, well, coincidentally, my mom had the room right next to hers, and when she saw her, it was clear how she was enjoying a vacation with her boyfriend. I was stunned, too stunned to even react, and asked my friend if she could get any proof of it. To my shock, by the evening, she had sent me quite a few pictures. My mom and Jack in the hotel's luxurious lobby, and also by the beach that was right in front of the hotel. You can imagine how shocked out of our wits I was, because this did not seem like a retreat for a church. Guys, I was so angry that I did not think of anything, and right at that moment I canceled the return tickets and also blocked the credit card which I had went out to lend her. Yeah, I thought that doing so and making my mom stuck on the island would make me feel better and a little less angry at her betrayal, but no, it's not helped at all. Like, yeah, there's a sense of relief that she might learn her lesson, but yet I can't stop thinking about how easily she fooled me and I did nothing about it. I'm honestly still furious about the whole thing, and I'm just waiting to talk to my mom and confront her about it all, guys. I really am. You know, I just kind of wanted to ask why she would betray her own kid like this. But obviously, it's no surprise that my mother's not picking up my calls or even replying to my text messages. This is also one of the reasons why I had to take the extreme step of blocking the credit card and canceling her return ticket, because now she has no other option but to call me. So now I'm just waiting for her call and to take out all my anger on her. Anyways, I'll keep you guys updated on whatever happens. Update number 2. Hey people, it's me again 2 days after my last update, and what I'm about to tell you might just not sit right with a lot of you. So as I mentioned in my last update, I found out how my mother lied to me about the church retreat and actually went on a vacation with her man using my money. And to teach her a lesson, I canceled her return ticket and booked the credit card. Blocked. One must think this ought to teach such a selfish person a lesson, right? No, wrong. Because a person as egoistical as my mother is beyond my understanding. Like, you won't believe how stupid and arrogant she's acting about this. As I mentioned before, I've been trying to call my mother, but she was refusing to pick up. I guess she was too busy enjoying the vacation with her idiot boyfriend. And I was honestly getting desperate to talk to her because I just wanted answers to certain questions like, where did I go wrong? Since I was a teenager, I've been trying to support my mother throughout. I was okay with me handling all the finances, but at what cost? My mother betraying me to enjoy some guy who's most probably just freeloading on her daughter's money, like seriously? So, as expected, once I blocked the credit cards, and she most probably got a text update about the canceled flight. She called me a little worried in her voice. As soon as she called me, I wasted absolutely no time and started shouting at her about how could she lie to me about all this. I also told her that now it was the consequence of her lying to me that she would be stuck there on the island with no money and no way to return back home. And can you believe what she did next? She laughed. Yeah, my mother laughed on the call for 2 minutes straight until I asked her to please snap out of it. Get out of here. I was confused as you guys are right now. And when I asked her why she was laughing like an absolute maniac, she just simply said, I take her as a fool. I take her as a fool? Well, I was still confused, and my mother said that she was not stupid enough to just rely on my credit card. She had gotten some cash, which she had been saving from the money I was giving her for her necessities for the last few weeks, and she had enough to book another flight. She just laughed at me some more and asked me if I really thought I'd be able to get her stuck at some island. She just went on and on about how I could never make her pay no matter what she did, since she was my mother and always one step ahead of me. Can you believe the audacity? I mean, come on. Instead of being apologetic for lying to me, she was rubbing this all in my face about how she had fooled me successfully. What? And was not even 1% guilty about it. I just hung up the phone right then and there at the moment, even more furious at my mom than before. And, well, in my anger, I might have done something. My mom doesn't know what's coming for her because as soon as she comes back, she's going to be getting the shock of her lifetime. I know a lot of you guys might think that what I'm doing is too extreme. But guys, I've had enough of this, and the last solution I've had is about to happen. So basically, I've been planning on working on selling the home that we're currently living in for a few months now, and my mother knows nothing about this. The reason, you ask? So apparently I wanted to surprise my mom with the big house I got at a more posh location on her birthday next month. But now that she's done this to me, the surprise is about to change into the biggest shock of her life. I had already paid for the house, and I already got the buyers for the house I'm currently living in. The buyer for my current house is actually one of my old colleagues. So, after all the legalities of the house, I had asked him earlier whether it would be okay for him to move in next month, when I moved out after my mother's birthday party. He had agreed since we were practically friends, and he didn't mind waiting some time for it. I had planned this so that my mother would have no idea of the surprise waiting for her until I told her about moving into a bigger house. But of course, now that the surprise was off the table, I made haste with the minor legalities that was left transferring the house to my friend, and I asked him if he could move into the house within this week. He was all right with it since he was already preparing for the move with just a few days left to my mother's birthday. So that's what I did in the past 2 days, and I'm writing this update from my new home, while my friend is all settled in my house. I still have a lot of unpacking and shifting to do, but I really needed to vent this out. I know I might have gone too extreme, but for all I care, my mother deserves this. Heck, she deserves even worse. Now, I can't wait to see her reaction when she's back home in a few days. I'll let you guys know exactly how this goes. Update number 3. Hey guys, it's been 4 days after my last updates, and just hold your breath, because this is a major one. So just like me, a lot of you were waiting to know my mother's reaction when she showed up at the house, which is no longer hers. Well, all I can say is that it went better than I could have ever thought. I'd already notified my friends of the whole beef between me and my mom, and I asked him to please let me know if she turns up or if anything happens. Well, it didn't take long, because she showed up at the house yesterday, and that's where it all went downhill for her. So, basically, when I moved out of the old house, I had taken my mother's stuff out and left it next to the trash can on our street. It was all there lying, scattered, waiting for my mother. So obviously, when my mom showed up at the house and saw all her stuff littered outside, she must have got the idea and she called me. I obviously did not pick up. So she left a text saying that I was being ridiculous doing this, since she could just get her stuff back in the house. Well, this is where things get interesting. When she tried her keys, obviously it did not open up since my friend got all the locks changed. But my mother did not get the idea, calling me insistently and banging on the door simultaneously, shouting all sorts of abuses for me to open up. I did not pick up any of her calls, but my friends did open up. When he saw her, he tried to reason with her that the house no longer belonged to me and he's the rightful owner. But obviously a woman as dumb as my mom could see no reason for logic, and she started to force her way inside the house. My friend, being the calm, cool, collect man that he was, still tried to keep her outside and told her how he had bought the home. But my mom failed to accept the fact that I could have sold the house and shifted to someplace else while she was gone. More than that, I guess she was mortified by the fact that she had nowhere else to go with her idiot boyfriend, living in a tiny apartment with 4 other men. What would a sane person do in such a situation? Get out of someone else's property and figure out their living arrangement, right? But my mother, driven by her desperation, might have lost all sanity because instead of calling Jack or me at that point, she decided that she did not believe the young man standing in front of her, and decided to shove him aside to go in the house. She just told my friend that she knew I had set him up to do all this to teach me a lesson, but she wasn't stupid enough and would not believe this prank or mockery or whatever it was. Guys, it was honestly so damn funny to me that my mother thought I was pulling a fast one on her to teach her a lesson. As I mentioned, my friend was a calm man, but even the calmest of us had a certain threshold for how much we can take. And when my mother tried to push him aside to get into the house, he had reached his. He wasted no time calling the cops and pressing charges for trespass. And once the cops came and took my mom, who was hysterically shouting that this was her house, my friend finally called me to tell me what just went down. He also told me that my mom had been arrested. At that moment, I let go of the last bit of guilt. I'd been feeling in my stomach a lot, and I know I got extreme shifting houses like this, but it was my mother who was the horrible person here. Like, why would she try to force her way into the house when my friend told her he lives here now? It just proved how foolish my mother was, and she deserved all what was happening. I honestly did not think that things would get this bad, and she acted crazy. That is why I apologized to my friend for all the trouble that he had to go through because of me. Well, my mom, she's in jail, and she got them to contact me more times than I can remember, but I'm not answering the phone. No way in hell am I in a mood to talk to her or help her, and who knows if these few days locked up in jail would give her the time to think about what she did wrong. It's interesting to see that Jack is also nowhere to be seen in this entire situation. I mean, could he not bail out the love of his life? Well, it'll be fun to see how things unfold from here on out, now that my mom is in jail desperately pleading for someone to bail her out. Final updates. Hey! Guys, I know it's been more than a month since my last update, and a lot of you were curious about my mom and Jack's relationship, and whether she made it out of jail or not. So here goes one last update. So yes, my mom did make it out of jail within a few days of her arrest, though she did not make it out unscathed as she was to pay a certain fine. But yeah, the question was, did I or Jack bail her out? No, we didn't. After a few days of her arrest, she was let out by the officials themselves with a fine and a stern warning. The interesting part is that my mother tried to reach me from jail quite a few times. Well, I only picked up one call where she was begging me to bail her out. Begging, as she was miserable there. I just asked her where her idiot boyfriend was now that she needed him. My mother stayed shushed, and like this, she had wasted the one call that was allowed to her by the police. Even after she made it out of jail, things did not look up for her. Jack had basically dumped her without actually confronting her, as he was nowhere to be seen even when she showed up at his apartment to see him. His roommates told her that he fled the country after she was arrested. So basically, my mom's freeloading boyfriend, whom she betrayed, abandoned her while she was in jail to his home country. Serves her right. And how do I know this? My mother had shown up at my workplace a few days ago begging me to take her back, crying while narrating her sob story about how Jack had left her. Did I take her back? Not a chance in hell. I just told her to leave me alone and never show her face again. So basically now my mom is on her own and pretty much miserable. From what I heard last, she was living in some shelter home since she was not getting a job. She had been trying to contact her old babysitting places, but I guess it's too late for that, as they already have a more stable, able babysitter. So right now, my mom's just living a trashy life, living in a shelter, trying to find a job, and honestly, I don't care. Like, do I feel bad? Things had to come to this, maybe. But I can't help it since it was my mom who did this to herself. I was okay with providing for her, but she was the one who had to push it and risk it all. Well, I guess she's facing the consequences. Let me know what you would have done.